Good morning, this is B970 from London, and today I'll be paying more respects to Lewis Johnson in the history and chronicles of playing the bass. And straight away I'm going to do a jazz type groove rendition of Brother Man. As we all know, there are many bass players online that do Lewis Johnson, Brothers Johnson, Quincy Jones, Michael Jackson bass covers. So at this moment we're going to look at Mr. Cool. We're going to look at 3 ways of playing the first part of the tune and 2 ways of playing the outtake. So for those that don't know how to get into this particular joint, we're going to look at a very simple way of trying to get into the joint. So we get this type of feeling. The second way of trying to get into Lewis Johnson, but it's a bit more advantageous, is using this type of technique. I call it Don't Look in My Face, where there's a Marcus Miller video and the guy's looking at Marcus Miller's face. And Marcus Miller's saying, hey, don't look at my face, look at my hands. Don't look at my face. Look at my hands. So you get that type of feeling. And when you put that to Mr. Cool, you get this type of action. The last way that we're going to look at Mr. Cool is probably closest to how Lewis Johnson actually plays this bass line. And the very first note is a chord. So we're just going to leave it there, because the next part is very different to how we played the other 2 bass lines. There's a bass teacher on the internet, and he says that, slapping the bass is very much like turning a door handle. Well, Marcus Miller doesn't use that technique. Marcus Miller uses his elbow, and the bass comes down in this type of action. So when we look at an example of a Marcus Miller sort of like situation, you get this. So we've got to use this type of playing in order to play the second part of Mr. Cool. So when we come to the second part of Mr. Cool, most people on the internet play Mr. Cool with this type of feeling. Mr. Cool, and this is what I was saying about Milo DK, this is the time that he began to drop out of doing bass covers, because you know he would be in a position where he could get caught by the string of bass players that were out there ready to pounce, so to speak, when Milo DK done his next bass cover. So when we listen to how I was actually turning the notes, it's slightly different. And that small note could knock Milo DK out, because it would start to indicate some of the inside notes and the inside hearing. And that's what Carol Kaye was saying. If you start doing rock stuff and rock scales, you can no longer hear the groove. If you follow other bass lines, then you're not actually listening to the song at all. And we've got a few recent people on the internet doing Mr. Cool, and their videos are quite good, and they are sort of based on the Marcus Miller sort of way of playing the bass. So when you see the Mr. Cool version, it's a very good version. And the next bass line that we're going to look at, obviously because we were talking in those terms, is Get on the Dance Floor. Now, I told everybody that I knew that I was going to do Get on the Dance Floor by Michael Jackson, because I just wanted to see what would happen on the internet. And within weeks, there were loads of people on the internet doing versions of Get on the Dance Floor. And the main sort of approach that most of the bass players do is this type of bass playing. Which is this sort of way of playing the bass. And there are a few guys doing triplets. And so on and so on. I was really getting nervous. Oh my God, what have I done? And that's when I saw the Carol Kaye interview, and that's when I realised about Wes Montgomery. So I took a sort of jazz groove approach to Get on the Dance Floor. So the very first thing about Get on the Dance Floor is that I put ghost notes in plain view. And how to describe where they are and how to hear them, we're going to use this type of exercise. Obviously, you've got the chords. G minor. And that's how most people play the bass line. When I mean that, what they're doing is you're using C and D and F and G. So what I did is I used C sharp and D. And on the next run I used C and C sharp. So I've got three ways of playing the very first part of the tune. And on the second part, I used three different ways of playing the second part. So when we look at the second part, we've got F to G, and then we can use a semitone where we play two notes here, and then we use F sharp and G, and then the more advantageous one is where we play one note on F, and we play two notes on F sharp. So that's the type of thing that I did on Get on the Dance Floor. So now you've seen the notes and heard the notes. If you watch the video, then you'll see that they're in there. So I was playing Get on the Dance Floor in that type of way. And obviously using a bit of Super Spank, which is my own sort of copyright bass playing. I'm not going to show you how to do Super Spank on the internet. So in the second part of Get on the Dance Floor, how most people play it, you've got Lewis Johnson on a video and he actually shows you the notes. And what I was doing, I was getting into that, I saw the video and I was playing it, I was trying to play it loud, and every time I played it loud I couldn't hear the notes. I wasn't happy. So I've come to the conclusion that the video that Lewis Johnson is showing you, he's only showing you the top notes. After all, it's a Michael Jackson tune, and you know, everybody knew what Michael Jackson was like, so you know, Lewis Johnson may not have been in the position to show you the groove, so all he did was show the top notes of that tune. In the bass tag, he goes on about synth bass. Do you play synth bass? Well, I don't really play synth bass that much. I don't use that many effects on the bass in that way, but I do understand synth bass to a certain level. And when you listen to Get on the Dance Floor, there's an undercurrent groove in that sequence. And so when you're listening to that, so on one of the bars in the groove, the minor third becomes dominant, and that gives you a chance to turn the notes round and get an undercurrent groove going. So you get this part where part of the groove sounds quiet and part of the groove sounds more, and the reason why is because the undercurrent is changing. It's not the same all the way through. One of them goes like that, and one of them goes, and this is very popular when you're playing synth type bass lines. And none of the bass players actually emphasize that part of the tune. In fact, they all basically play the bass line the same kind of way. And I wasn't happy playing the bass that way. When I wanted to play it loud, you couldn't hear the notes. So I looked for a different way of fingering the bass line, and the very first way that I came up with was a very simple pull-off. But it was a bit too loud for the song. So I looked for a different way of playing it, and I came up with this way of playing it. You know, and it was a bit too quiet, but you know, it seemed all right, but I wasn't quite sure, so I looked for another way of playing the bass line. And obviously with Lewis Johnson likes using the thumb, and then I realised, oh my God. So I started jamming around there and realised that there was a pull-off in that area. And it fits in with a minor third. So I began to really jam that, and I went, no, I'm not going to do it. And the reason why is because there were so many people moving in on Lewis Johnson that I decided to keep that for a rainy day. And every 6 months or so, I wanted to do a video of explaining how to Get on the Dance Floor. I said, no, it's irrelevant. It's, you know, it's too technical. But now we're talking about Louis Johnson, now is the time to sort of like explain what happened. So I was going to do the full Bones Louis Johnson bass line, and I cut out, I wanted to give Louis Johnson some space, you know, because most of the videos you see recently of Louis Johnson is when he's in a hotel room eating pizza, or he's in a hotel room watching football, and then someone sneaks a bass in, and then they tempt Louis Johnson to play the bass. So I want to give Louis Johnson a bit of room. So instead, I put indicators. So I started to put indicators in the tune. And the reason why I put those indicators in the tune is that some of the bass players and some of the producers and that, they would hear it and then realise that the guy was actually following the groove and not all of the pitter-patter, different clicks or whatever that the guys were doing. He was actually trying to follow what was happening in the tune, and especially with the minor third. And so they realised, and so that's why that's in there, because in the groove, if he was playing the synthesizer, one of the riffs you would actually dominate with the minor third. And so when you watch the videos of the guys, you know, they just go round and round in circles and just keep copying the same groove all the time. And I got a few good replies, and then the video, Get on the Dance Floor, went even more viral. And so that's why you've got these guys coming along, and that's why I was, oh my God, what's going on? Well, we can understand that in that aspect, that if you get enough people to sort of like gang up and play the same bass line and get other people to play that bass line, then people begin to believe that that's the bass line. And so, like Runaway with Jamiroquai, where there's literally hundreds and hundreds of versions of Runaway on the internet, they're put on the internet to really crowd out any of the minority bass players on the internet. So when people are scrolling through, you won't find any other version apart from the prescribed, churned out sort of viral version. And this is what's happening with Get on the Dance Floor recently. And that is what Carol Kaye said. If you start relying on rock scales and rock grooves and what have you, then you don't hear the groove no more. So when you've got advanced bass players and they're just going around, they're no longer hearing the minor third, the dominant minor third on the second bar. They can't hear it. And that's what Carol Kaye said. So that's one of the reasons why I got a few guys coming in and saying, yeah, it's a really good version. And so when the other guys saw that I got really good guys coming in and saying stuff, they churned out even more versions of Get on the Dance Floor in order to, you know, crowd out anybody else that had done a different type of version. And just to finish off on Get on the Dance Floor, there's a part where you get the musical break, where it's a Michael Jackson tune. And Michael Jackson goes into a cappella. A lot of guys do bass solos at that part, which is fine. You know, you're a bass player and you want to do a bass solo. But when you come out of the second part of that groove, the beat is on the upbeat. So when you come out with that, get up. Get up. We don't stop it. Get up. We don't stop it. Get up. We don't stop it. So when you come out of the bass solo on Get on the Dance Floor, the next few bars are on the upbeat. And so when you watch all of these videos and the guys, you know, polishing his nails and saying, yeah, I'm a really good bass player, when they come out of that groove, whatever the bass solo is, they're playing the bass on the downbeat when they come out. So when you're looking at Get on the Dance Floor, after the a cappella bit, the middle eight, the instrumental break, when they come back, the beat is on the upbeat, not on the downbeat. And everybody missed that out. So thank you for watching this part of the bass show, of the Bass Diaries, the history of the bass in respect to Louis Johnson. And I'll be doing one more video, and where we'll just be talking about Louis Johnson and how Louis Johnson fits into the history of playing the bass. So thank you very much for watching this part. Thank you.